Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
And a very good afternoon to you. Welcome along to Friday Night Racing. It's Gilroy and Johnny Ward with you this Friday afternoon. We stream every Friday afternoon across all of our social channels. That's Facebook, YouTube and on the OTB Sports app at 3 o'clock, and then we replay it again every Friday evening from 8. A very special guest for you coming up in just a moment with Gordon Elliott. Johnny, how are you getting on before we get to Gordon?
Hi, Ger, how are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. Loads to talk about, and we'll get to that in a moment. But in terms of what's happening on the track this weekend, we should talk about the fact that Princess Zoe is going on Sunday as things stand at the moment, and there's been incredible stories told about this horse, and every time she runs there is increased attention, as there should be, because it is an incredible story, as we found out ourselves here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and as Tony said that day, he was on, all the different jockeys that Princess Zoe has had, from Shane Foley to Jodie Townsend to Finian Maguire to Joey Sheridan, and now Shamie Heffernan, who rides, I think, for the first time in the race in the 250 in Longchamp. Interesting enough, she's taken on a horse that actually won on the card at Longchamp Valley, trained by Alain de Rod Dupré, who's See the Stars filly, who's probably going to be something like second favourite. Subjectivist comes over as well from Mark Johnson's yard, but likelihood is Princess Zoe will be favourite. It's heavy conditions as well over there. Right up her street, and a chance for Paddy Keogh to win another 100 grand or so, not to be sniffed at, and must have every chance of continuing the fairy tale. And it's no harm as well in these times to have something like to look forward to have a race that's kind of the pivot for the weekend, as well as the futurity, obviously, the big race in Doncaster tomorrow. But yeah, the Princess Zoe story goes on. Yeah,
look, you're obviously very plugged into other sports as well. Has the Princess story crossed over? Has it hit that level just yet?
Absolutely, yeah. I've spoken to people who may not even necessarily have a massive interest in sport itself, who know the Princess Zoe story, and certainly the Tony Mullins interview we did. I've spoken to quite a lot of people who, even League of Ireland personalities were on to me that with no interest in racing. They thought it was Tony told the story very well about racing, and it's just a great rags to riches story, and hopefully all goes well. With the complexities of travel at the moment, to get a jockey, trainer and horse, presumably Tony's gone over in France on Sunday, is no mean feat, and exciting times for the Princess Zoe story.
Yeah, and look, we'll obviously be looking forward to that. It is an incredible weekend of live sports, and make sure you put your timer on 2:50 on Sunday afternoon. And you think the ground suits, and so therefore going off favourite, you would expect a victory?
I expect a big run. I'm not going to say that she's definitely going to beat the French horse, who's Sees the Stars, and only a 3-year-old as well, who's quite lightly raced. And if you look at her form, she's only stepped up once to this type of trip in heavy ground that same day in Longchamp. You'd imagine it's going to be similar ground, and she did look good that day. Christophe Soumillon retains the ride. Princess Zoe's dropping back to just short of 2 miles. I don't think that'll be any problem. Obviously, it was memorable the last day how she just kept going over the 2.5, but she's won over 1.5 miles. She's very versatile. I think the key to her is that she has soft ground, and has to be thereabouts, surely.
I have one last question about this. So the changing of the jockeys, just how important is that individual horses like this, where there's a quirkiness sometimes, even just the way Princess Zoe walks was something that Tony Mullins was talking to us about. Is that in any way a concern, or with somebody as accomplished as Shamie Heffernan, it doesn't matter?
I don't think it matters. I mean, she's had 2 amateurs ride her this year, and that's not to put down amateurs, but they've both won on her, Jodie Townsend and Finian Maguire. Joey Sheridan is 3 from 3 on her, who's an up-and-coming jockey. Shane Foley, obviously, as Tony said that day, maybe if Shane Foley knew the horse a bit better, she would have won in Navan. That seems a long time ago now, but Shamie Heffernan is top class. Very interesting times in Ballydoyle with regard to who's going to be the next stable jockey. Colin Keane riding an awful lot for them, but Shamie, you'll be certain, will still be a massive cog in that operation, and this will be a nice foray for him. He'd rarely ride a horse that isn't for Aidan O'Brien in a race in France, and hopefully it'll be a winning one.
100%. All right, so this is Friday Night Racing here on Off the Ball, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie or follow the new Twitter account at HRI Racing, and the hashtag is every racing moment as the seagulls descend on Johnny Ward's balcony there. Let me welcome Gordon Elliott to the show. Gordon, good morning, good afternoon to you. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good.
What kind of a week have you guys had? Obviously, Tiger Roll coming back out. That great excitement and a little bit of nervousness, is there?
I don't know, it's nice to get him out, have a day out. He enjoyed himself. He's a bit slow out of the stalls, but listen, the race was over before it started as far as winning it. But he went to the races, had a good blow, and he went out to the paddock this morning, bucking and squealing, so we're happy.
We were chatting there about Princess Zoe and how that's a horse that has crossed over into the mainstream. There's been no bigger horse that's crossed over into the mainstream than Tiger Roll. So is there, like, I know you try and treat everything as evenly as you possibly can, because you can't get too high and you can't get too low in racing with so many ups and downs. But when something like Tiger Roll comes back into the start of a big season like this, is there a little bit of extra energy just around the yard even?
I think everyone likes to see the horse. There's a great buzz when anyone comes into the yard to see him. But as far as there being pressure on him, I mean, he's won 2 Grand Nationals now, so he just knows another thing. If he never wins another race, he's been a horse of a lifetime, and we've been very lucky to have him. And
because of that, then, do you actually get to enjoy these days a bit more?
Listen, you always enjoy them, but listen, you always get a bit nervous as well when they're running. So look, it's brilliant to have him, and we're looking forward to getting him back, obviously, to Cheltenham in November for the cross-country race, and work our way back from there.
What was the ground like yesterday for him as well, Gordon? Obviously, he was a bit rusty, but probably not ideal.
It was not ideal, Johnny. As you know, he stones better on better ground, so he is. But he listen, it wasn't about winning yesterday. It was about having a day out, and he ran a good race, so we're very happy.
Just in relation to last year, obviously the big thing was going to the Grand National. It was a bit like I suppose a bit like the Eastlaine story when they called off on account of the foot and mouth, because that Grand National obviously never happened. And I'd say secretly, in some respects, you were nearly happy that the season kind of ended to give you another go this year. I
suppose for Tiger, it probably might have been the best thing that happened. He came home in Cheltenham a little bit sore and whatnot, but Aintree is probably going to come quick enough for us. But look, hopefully we can have a good year with him again this year.
What do you make of the cross country run last year?
I thought the best horse won. There was no excuse. The ground was pretty soft on the day. Aura just didn't pick up like he does on better ground. But he got bet by a very good horse, and probably no excuse, to be honest.
Does he have the same enthusiasm? Obviously, you've long said that he's a bit of a character at home. Does he have that same enthusiasm for the game?
He does, but I think ground is key to him. The better the ground, the better chance he has.
It's been just in relation to him and all the jockeys he's had. What's it been like in the yard? Because you've had particularly Jack Kennedy, but also obviously Davy and Keith Donoghue's come in for the rise because of the injuries to those two, and your jockeys could do with maybe a bit of a change of look as well. Yeah, but that's the game we're in. I mean, look at it; it's an up and down game. Jack is only young; he's 21 years of age. He's a lot of years in front of him, and you know what Jack Kennedy's doing when he's 21. What's he going to be like when he's 24 or 5? You know, he's a serious jockey. And Davy obviously is at the other end of his career, and it's not ideal to get a break at this stage of his career. But Davy's, as we all know, he's a serious talent, and his determination and will to win. You know, I'd say you could never underestimate Davy Russell. He'll be back sooner than later. I know you've obviously been among the winners already today at Sligo, but it is staggering the amount of jockeys you use and the amount of people you give chances to. Just looking at your last few runners here: Jamie Codd, Declan McDonough, Sam Ewing, Gavin Bruder, Luke Dempsey, Jamie Codd, Sam Ewing, Keith Donoghu, Brian Cooper, Jack Wildman, Kevin Sexton, Conor Orr, Lisa O'Neill, Lee Roach. You certainly spread it around and give lads a chance.
Yeah, that's it. Keith rode 2 winners for us today, obviously in Sligo, the first 2 races, and Robert Powers rode a winner in Cheltenham for us today already. So, I mean, look, we tend to use the best available. We've got a lot of lads coming into the yard riding out, working hard to get right. So, if they come in and work hard, I'll give them a chance. Obviously, Davy and Jack are our 2 number ones, and we'll work back from there. And look, that's the game. Whoever puts the work in gets the rides.
Can I ask you about that, Gordon? What do you look for when you're saying you want somebody to put the work in the yard? How do you tell who?
Look, when I'm saying, look at the lads that come in riding out, we tend to try and give them split the rides between them when the few bigger lads are out and injured. Obviously, and owners have got some preferred jockeys to like, so I tend to use the best available, and you can't get in too much trouble then, you know. Yeah,
and so if someone comes and proves that they're willing to come to work and they're on time and they do everything you ask them to in the yard, you're going to give them a chance in the race, and then you can tell whether or not they're any good.
Well, that's it. I mean, look at Jack Kennedy. He came to us when he was 16 years of age. I think he did his first grade 1 when he was 17, and I suppose Keith Donoghu is the proof of the pudding. You know, he struggles with his weight every day of the week. He works harder than any jockey, and it just goes to show he's had a few slim seasons, but you know he's had one of his best ever seasons this year, and well deserved.
No more than
that's been staggering for Keith. We had Keith on before, obviously, and you know when he rode Tiger Roll, obviously, Gordon, I remember the first day he rode him in the cross country race. he'd been basically running laps and laps and laps. I think he was running 50 miles a week just to do the weight in the cross country. And now you turn around to 2020 and he's able to do like 11.2 this year, I think. He's ridden seriously good horses for you this year, and all of a sudden like has become a massive cog and nearly riding your best horses because the rest aren't available.
That's it. I mean, it just goes to show that's the exact point, Johnny. If you put the work in, you get it. I mean, Keith obviously, massively with his weight, but he's put an awful lot of work into it, with diet, training regimes, and he's the go-to jockey. I mean, look at obviously with a few of the bigger lads out injured, Gavin Cromwell, everyone's using them on some of their best horses in novice chases, so that just shows the talent he is.
Yeah, Johnny was saying that the lockdown actually helped him because that was the opportunity for him to kind of get to grips with that and do a load of running and kind of set the base weight for himself. That's
it. I mean, look, he can't really do any more lighter than 11.1 or 2, but at that he's good enough for me.
Gordon, I'm always interested in your relationship with jockeys as a former jockey. How do you, like, obviously that's your way into the racing game. Does that change your relationship with them? Does that make you kind of a bit more being on their side in some ways, or at least understanding what they're doing and what the difficulties they might be going through are?
Listen, to be honest, I have a pretty good relationship with most of the jockeys that ride for me, and I'm a big believer, like, if they're good enough, you don't really need to be telling them what to do. They should know what to do. So, I tend to try and use the best we can have on the day, and it normally works out. Thank God.
How did you end up becoming a jockey when, most of the people who we have on the show tend to be from a long line of people, third or fourth generation horse people, but that's not your case, is it?
No, it's not at all. No, my family nothing got to do with horses at all. Listen, I rode as an amateur. I was an amateur jockey. I wasn't a professional, and probably an ordinary amateur at it. Listen, I had a few seasons, rode a couple of winners out in Cheltenham, had good fun riding a pint of pints, loved doing that. But listen, I was ordinary enough riding, and thankfully the training worked out well for me.
Who got you into the riding?
I suppose my first proper job was, for Tony Martin. When I was a young fella and got my amateur licence there, and rode my first winner in a bumper for Michael Cunningham. Kind of went from there. And did you just rock up to Tony Martin's and say, "Here, listen, I like horses. Can you give me a gig?" No, I'd rode it in a few other stables before that, but my two uncles of mine used to have a pint-to-pinter with Tony, and they kind of got me in there at weekends and going pint-to-pint, and as I said, the rest is history. You must have liked it, though. Yeah, listen, it's great crack, and they meet great people in racing, and great buzz. Obviously, working in stable yards, it's brilliant. And did you know that you wanted to be a trainer from the get-go, or did you want to be a champion jockey? Was that the first ambition? Listen, I suppose if you're telling a lie if you said you want to be a trainer from the very start. I mean, everyone at the start wants to be a Paul Carberry or a Ruby Walsh or be a champion jockey. But number one, I struggled with my weight an awful lot, and I suppose two, I wasn't good enough. So the training always was kind of what I wanted to do then, And in the back of your head, like fairly early on as a jockey, you're like, actually, you know what, I could be a trainer here. Because it's a mad story, Gordon, from the outside, to go from, being an okay amateur rider to being one of the best trainers in the world. It's mad. Well, listen, as Johnny said earlier on, it's if you put the work in, and I've worked hard to build the yard we have, to have the owners we have and the staff we have. We work very hard. We're a big team here in the yard, and it works well, thankfully. But you started out small, obviously. Oh, we did. We started out with half a dozen horses, and it just got bigger and bigger. But it's been brilliant. It's been a dream come true, to be honest. And is the secret the early success? Is that the tipping point for you, or did you know before Silver Birch that you were actually going to be okay and you were going to make it? Listen, it was great to have Silver Birch. I suppose early in my training career, the first season, but I wouldn't say I got any more horses for winning that Grand National Silver Birch. A lot of people sat back and just seen what I could do, and it was probably a season or a season and a half after before I got a lot more horses, and the rest then just kept snowballing and got more and more. But listen, horse racing is a results game where you're a jockey or a trainer, and it's all about training winners, and you're only as good as your last winner. And before sorry Johnny.
Sorry, Jerry.
Before Silver Birch, did you have confidence that you were in the right game, that you kind of, even though you loved it, like lots of people love what they do, but they're not going to make it. At some point, the penny must have dropped to you going, do you know what, I am actually good at this. Listen, I suppose it's something I always loved, and I didn't really know anything else. So if I wasn't going to be a trainer, I don't know what I'd be working in the yard, probably as a stable lad, And
if that's the road I went, I'm sure I would have really enjoyed that as well. But thankfully things worked out for me, and I have a lot of good people around me and met a lot of good people and got to train for good people. It's brilliant.
The time you spent with Martin Pipe, like how much did that influence your training methods? Because he was kind of self-made as well. He came from his own unique background, I suppose. But your horses, in fairness, you do run them, and they're very fit. And was he the biggest influence on your career?
Definitely, Martin Pipe is one of my heroes in life. You know, when you're starting off as a trainer, you know, he only rang me today at lunchtime looking for a winner. So you know, listen, he's one of my heroes in life, and you know what he done in jump racing, he brought it to the next standard. I know a lot of people have come up to where he was, but he brought it to the next level.
What brought you over there to him? Was it obviously like you went over, but was it something you said, I just want to learn from him?
I didn't go over thinking I was going to be a trainer running. I went over thinking I was going to be an amateur jockey, and I rode as an amateur jockey for him for a few seasons. But I was probably a bit homesick and come home and wanted to start training a few horses. And you know, my stint over there was unbelievable. And I've still been very close to the Pipe family since I came home. You know, so it's been a great connection, to be honest.
Did you give him a winner when he rang you for one, or?
I gave him one anyway, and hopefully another one coming.
Happy days. And just, I don't know, what strikes me about your yard, apart from the fact that you've installed a new bar since I was last there, which must be great in lockdown with all the bars closed, but first of all, your facilities, but second of all, there's an amazingly good atmosphere there, and I always say that your success is a lot down to how good you are at picking your team. You might be like the Alex Ferguson who's picked the right players because you're the squad that you have, and that you're able to delegate responsibility, just say if you're not there, and that seems to be one of the key things for me anyway.
Yeah, that's it. You've got good people around you. I mean, from Simon McGonigal, my head man, who I've been friends with since we're 10 or 12 years of age, to the last person to come into this yard. Everyone's got their job, and everyone knows what to do. But I mean, I'm very lucky to have so many good people around me. But you know, as you facilities are massive. You know, from the owner's room we've put in to entertain owners when they come down, to new barns we put up, to new walkers, to swimming pools. We never sit still. We're always trying to improve the place.
What's it like in terms of being a boss as well? Was that something that came naturally to you? Because obviously it's not all smiling faces. Like if lads are turning up late, or if they're kind of not doing their job, you have to be ruthless as well, I suppose.
That's it. I mean, look, it's not all, you know, having winners in Cheltenham, you know, or having winners in Sligo today. There's plenty of bad days, and you know, I'd ring an owner tomorrow at 12 o'clock to tell him his horse got injured in the gallop yesterday, and you know, he's probably going to be out for the rest of the season. I mean, that comes with the game. You know, with every bit of good news you have, you've got bad news as well. So, but it's brilliant. I love it. It's a great game to be involved in. The people you meet, places you get to go all over the world. I mean, our racing in Ireland is second to none. It's just, we're very, very lucky.
Just at the moment as well, how kind of confident and content are you about the present and the future? You know, just talking to lads who might have had horses at the Doncaster sales there and came back with kind of tales of woe, just in terms of the hunger for horses at the moment. The owners are obviously can't go racing, prize money is down, and it's a tough time.
Yeah, it is tough, but you know, it's good to see we got a good boost in prize money from the government there recently. But it is a tough time for owners. I mean, because they can't go racing. It's hard if you can't go racing, because we all want to go racing. But you know, hopefully we get the owners back sooner than later, and the crowd to follow. But I just have to say, when I'm online, like, the job the racecourses are doing, are second to none. You know, Jennifer Pugh and Dr. McGoldrick, the job they're doing and keeping everything going, it's been run so professional, and it's brilliant. And I was even at a Point to Point last weekend, and the job that's been done at the Point to Point is second to none. So it's brilliant that the job that everyone in racing is doing, it's second to none. I
think on that, you know, racing kind of does deserve a bit of credit for that, and the race courses, and as Gordon said, the Point to Points, because when racing came back, what was it, early June at this stage, you know, racing's been such an important outlet for people to not be, they're obviously not able to go, but just to have something to look forward to. There's been a lot of racing on, but you know, the number of COVID cases within the sport has been so small, and I genuinely think yards and race courses, and people deserve a lot of credit for that, because we've seen in other sports how tricky it is, and I know they're team sports, but the case levels have been exceptionally low in racing, and that is testament to people abiding by the rules and being, I think, very respectful of the situation across the country, but also very thankful to the government that this show is on the road.
I think they also made sure that the rules were implemented very well from the start, and that nobody was seen to be above the rules, which has been very important.
Absolutely.
Like, you know,
Absolutely,
that was hugely important in establishing these are going to be the rules, and they're not one rule for the superstars of the sport. It's the same rule for everybody as well. Gordon, talk to us a little bit about the current crop of horses that you have at the moment. Can you give us 3 to follow that maybe aren't your most famous ones that people are definitely interested in?
I prefer when you ask the questions and I answer them, to be honest. Listen, we've got a lovely, lovely bunch of horses. I have an awful lot of young horses to come out and run. If I mention one, I'm only leaving them out. Galvin, the horse that won in Cheltenham today, I think he's a horse I'm going to freshen him up and bring him straight back for the 4 mile chase in Cheltenham next season. Jamie Codd will ride him, all being well. I've got a few nice bumper horses running. A nice bumper horse called Hollow Games. He's been showing us everything right at home. He won soft ground. What else have we got? I mean, I suppose the one horse, that's been new to my yard this year is presenting Percy. He's one I'm looking forward to run this year. He could be on anything. He only has to improve half a stone to be in the mix in all the big races, and maybe coming to my yard he'll have improved a half a stone, or he could have went back a half a stone, because Pat Kelly done a wonderful job with the horse. But I'm lucky to have him, and he's a horse I've always admired and looked up to.
That's a fascinating one. How was he, set in? Because people forget about him. He was still bang there when he fell in the Gold Cup last year.
He's in great form, Johnny. I couldn't be happier with him. He's done a few bits of work in grass now. We're very, very happy with him. He's running down Ryle next Saturday, all being well, and nice starting point. He will come on from it, but obviously we're training him for the Gold Cup, but I still have the Grand National in the back of my head. I think he's made for the race.
Gordon, when you're training those horses, do you train them all fairly similarly because that's your template, or do you like to look at them as complete individuals and say, okay, I'm going to have to go on a completely different course for these individuals?
Every horse is different in the yard. I mean, we've got 4 different gallops, from wood chip gallops to sand gallops to circular gallops to uphill gallops. So every horse is different. But I'd say that routine is very important to horses, and I suppose one of the things I did learn from being with Martin Pipe, he says to me, when things are going well, with the training regime you have, if they go a bit wayward and come off the tracks and go wrong, don't change your regime. Keep doing the same what you do and it'll come back right. And that's one thing I always took from what he said.
Because that means there's consistency. You can measure the work they've done one week versus the next if you've done the same piece of work. Yeah,
well, you've got a fair idea what the work you do. Every horse is different, but we kind of keep it simple as we can.
And are you a fitness, is it get the horses as fit as they possibly can, and for as long as possible, or do you like to kind of peak at certain parts of the year? How does that work?
Listen, Cheltenham is the one place I like to have my horses peaking, so we like to have winners all year long, but Cheltenham is the one place I love having winners. But fitness is massive in Ireland now. I mean, you have to be fit now to compete in Ireland. There's no hiding place, In Ireland, if you don't take on one stable, you take on another. Where, like, you look in England, you've I think 4 meetings in England yesterday, and you can duck and dive each other every day you want. Where we have to take each other on every day, and it's great for racing and great spectating, but the horses have to be fit. And
that's the other aspect of this, that you kind of need to be a little bit of a genius to remember exactly what the pathway for each of these horses are, and then it gets layered on the number of horses that you have, and then you begin to work out that it's a maths problem as much as anything, plotting a course for these horses to be successful through the year.
That's it, but it is racing is a bit of a numbers game. You have to have numbers to be at the top level. If you read years ago, like when Tom Draper and all them were champion trainers, maybe had 30 to 50 horses. I mean, that day is gone, and it's numbers now with the amount of racing. You have to compete day in, day out. And who do you talk to that you can get advice from that understands what you're going through? Because it can be, I presume, a bit lonely at the very top of the game. I've got a very, very good bunch of friends. Anyone that goes racing knows. I've got a good bunch of lads I hang around with, and you know they know me inside out. They know if I'm in good form or bad form, and you know, that's always a good help on the good days and the bad days. But I suppose as far as race planning goes, Ryan McElligott, he's a journalist. He does all the race planning with me, and you know, he's always great for a bit of advice. And you know, Gary O'Brien is another man that's always a good man to talk to about things if you want to. But Ryan does all the race planning with me, so he's a big part of our team.
And what about getting motivation at this level when you know you've got amazing horses, you've won literally everything there is in the game to win? What gets you up and makes you think, I'm going to get this today?
Listen, I'm only 42 years of age, so I'm still hungry. I want winners every day of the week, and you know, if you don't want the winners and don't want to be champion, in my mind, you shouldn't be doing it. So
it's champion at the moment. It's trying to be that the champion trainer.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's one thing I've always said in life I'd love to do. You know, I'm probably unfortunate to be alive at the same time as Willie Mullins, because he's probably the greatest trainer we've ever seen, you know, or will ever see. But listen, I think I've been second 8 times now to Willie, so hopefully it might happen someday. But if I keep doing what I'm doing and keep trying to improve, hopefully it might happen someday.
And do you appreciate that as well? That's the other thing, that great rivalries, you know, sometimes until you actually step back, you don't realise that you've kind of shaped each other. That I've no doubt that you're shaping, that they're talking about you on a very regular basis over there, going, what's he doing? What are the plans? How do we stop him from beating us this year? That you're driving their greatness as well.
Yeah, I suppose in one sense it does. The fact that we've been driving it makes Willie being even better. But you know, listen, it's great to be even talked about in the same sentence as Willie Mullins, and hopefully I can keep doing what I'm doing, and it might happen someday, please God.
And then just finally for me, Down Royal's big for you this weekend. A lot of your big guns. I think Envoy Allen's back out as well.
Envoy Allen will run, yeah. He'll run in the beginner's chase. He's in good form. He jumped 6 fences this morning. He jumped well. He'll probably jump next Tuesday or Wednesday morning again, jump a couple more. Listen, it's the start of the season, and it's a stepping stone. But we're looking forward to getting him out next weekend.
How happy are you with him in general?
He's in great form, Johnny. Like, in fairness to Envoy Allen, he's kind of a big laid-back horse at home. Like, he just does what he has to do. He eats, drinks and sleeps. You know, I couldn't be happier with him. He's in good form, and looking forward to getting him started back.
Is he comparable to the other good horses you've had? Because I know you've built up good horses, then they've generally lived up to them. You've had, obviously, Sam Crow's been very good, Don Cossack, you know, and this lad coming up now mustn't be a million miles off them talent-wise.
Look, he looks like he's an exceptional talent, and I'm very, very lucky to have him. But listen, I let him do his talk, and he hasn't let us down. Yes, there is going to be a day he's going to get best, like every horse. But listen, he's a champion, and what he's done so far, and if he stays in one piece and everything stays right, it'd be brilliant for their owners, Cheveley Park. We bought him to be top class, and hopefully he can be.
How do you pick who works with those? How do you match a horse with the person at home among the workers? Because the person that looks after that horse is obviously massively important. Yeah, well, Shaneen, the girl called Shaneen Mann, looks after him, and she looked after him from day one, so she knows the horse inside out. You know, Keith probably rides him out most days. If he's not here, Shane McCann will ride him most days. But like, to be honest, I'm not a big believer in working horses too hard against each other. I like to keep them happy and, you know, get them fit without galloping them much, and that's what we kind of tend to do, and thankfully it's working. How is Sam Crow? Sam Crow's in good form. He will go to Down Royal for the second season novice. Listen, it was a brilliant day in Cheltenham this year when he won the novice chase. You know, with the photo finish and all this, the excitement of it all was brilliant. But I think ground is the key to him. The one thing I won't do this year is probably run him in heavy ground. And just as well, I know Keith was very kind of keen on a horse this season called Eastlaine, who won his maiden hurdle there. Looked like he needed to run a bit. What do you make of him going forward? Yeah, he's a grand horse. You know, he's really a big chaser for next year, to be honest. He got tired of Keith and Punchestown last week. He'll come on again. He's a nice horse. He's got a serious cruising speed and jumps very well. I think whatever he does this year over hurdles, fences, it'll be a bonus. I suppose just my final question is, how is your new bar working out? To be honest, it's there for a good while now. It's there for entertaining owners, so it's
listen, it's grand. You know, with the lockdown, obviously we have to be very careful, and it's not open at the moment. But you know, thankfully, if an owner comes over to look at a race now, we're racing. People now have to go to races. It's nice for them to be able to have a drink and have a look at a race or whatever. So it's as you know, Johnny, it's all about entertaining owners and keeping them happy.
Well, in fairness, you must be very happy with the facilities, not only for the horses, but it is actually a pleasure to go to your yard and enjoy it. And you wake up every morning and you're there, like.
It is. I mean, like we've obviously a facility for owners to watch race, and you know, if they want to come and have a drink and watch race and different things. I mean, that's what the whole game is about now, is entertaining people. And for me, it's something I think it's very, very important, because they're what keeps the whole game going. They're paying for the horses to be trained every day of the week, and they deserve every bit of attention to get.
Well, that was my last question. Was we have a Davy Russell helmet here, and the Jigginstown colours are on it. Will you talk to us a bit about the importance of Jigginstown to your operation, and what's going to happen with that into the future?
Listen, Jigginstown were massive for me. Obviously, getting going, they were probably the really what's the word to say? I suppose they gave me a leg up when I was probably wasn't really known that well. They invested an awful lot of money into the yard, sending us a lot of good horses, and we haven't looked back. I mean, I suppose it's a year and a half ago now since Michael decided he's going to slow down in the game, and at the time it was a big shock. I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen now? But to be fair, we haven't looked back, and we've had a lot more owners investing into the place, and I'd say maybe owners investing in a bigger way because the new Jigginstown were slowing down. So to be honest, we haven't looked back. Listen, I hope Michael has horses in the yard in 10 years' time, but you know, at the moment, it looks like he's slowing down.
So maybe that might make some opportunity for other owners to come in as well. So it's
exactly, that's exactly what it is. I mean, a lot of people have invested into the yard now since Michael probably was our kind of number one owner, but now we've got a lot more room for a lot more horses.
Well, listen, continued success. Have a great season, Gordon. It's great to have you with us. Thanks a million.
Thanks Gordon.
Thanks, lads. Bye-bye.
It's Gordon Elliott giving us some thoughts there on a range of different topics. Friday Night Racing and Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. The presenting Percy, I hadn't even thought about what that's going to look like this year, because, I mean, we were in love with presenting Percy for a long time.
Yeah, I have to say, I backed him at 50-1 the day that he changed yard, because Pat Kelly hasn't had a winner since Presenting Percy won the Galmoy Hurdle in 2019 in January. So Pat Kelly had gone a long time without a winner, and you know, obviously you're half hoping that, you know, a change of scenery might. Remember the way he won the RSA Chase, and I completely forgive him his first Gold Cup run. He never got into a rhythm, and it was a complete mess of a race. But I backed him again in the race last year, and I think he'd have been sort of thereabouts anyway. And again, this is in the context of not having the stable, not having had a winner in Yonks, and I still think he would have been banged there. Gordon's obviously a genius. He's had 3 runners for Pat Kelly and Philip Brennan, from Pat Kelly for Philip Brennan so far. 2 of them have won well. The other one was just fine. I don't think they expected that. So there is a suspicion that these horses might be improving that have joined Gordon. And also the Gold Cup, you know, it looks reasonably open. I think he's 9 going on 10, but it wouldn't be a big concern. And I couldn't put anyone off having a few quid in him. And Gordon seemed very happy with him there as well. Obviously, the Grand National, you can imagine if he had a 1-2 in the Grand National, Presenting Percy and Tiger Roll battling it out for the finish. So
what was your point about Tiger Roll maybe enjoying or benefiting from the lockdown? Just that Cheltenham hadn't gone so well, and so therefore the expectation was out of kilter with where the horse was compared to other years?
He just had an abridged campaign, you know. I did find it interesting when Gordon had a load of journalists over for, I can't remember quite what it was for. Was it a Cheltenham launch or a entry weight, something or other anyway? And I remember he did get quite a little bit touchy about Tiger Roll coming out of his stable and posing for endless photographs, because at that time the horse was recuperating from injury, I think, and you know, he as much as he's kind of partly owned by the public, when you have, you know, the weight of potentially winning 3 Grand Nationals on your shoulders, it's a lot of public expectation. And this horse is a complete freak, you know. He's essentially a flatbred horse who ended up winning the Triumph Hurdle and then looking like he completely lost his way, to then going back to win the cross-country race obviously twice, and then to win the Grand National as well twice, for a horse that's not even that big. I think he's one horse who's massively benefited from the fact that they've changed the fences at Aintree. Tiger Roll wouldn't be mapped in an Aintree National of yesteryear because the fences were too tough for him. He's not that big, but he can kind of flick through them. And he's just become the most unlikely kind of legend because he was a horse that could have just faded into obscurity after his first season post winning the Triumph Hurdle. And that morning, Gordon was just, we do have to look after the horse here. Like, don't leave him out of the stable that long, look after him. And he didn't have a good year. He was injured going into Cheltenham. I know he says he was beaten by the best horse in the day. Maybe he was, but I didn't get the impression he was, he just had a bit of a checkered campaign last year. And to get that long break afterwards and reset the batteries, I wouldn't worry about the run at Navan. I thought that was perfectly grand. And the story is still possibly going to be told, I suppose.
Yeah, and isn't that the whole point about the horse tends to start very slowly in the season? Like, was it 2 years ago, won at 33-1, and then went on to win the Grand National the second time around? It was like, hang on a second.
Yeah. And one thing about Gordon as well, as Brendan Duke Jr. might say, a strive for the integrity of the game. The amount of horses he's had win over the last month or two there haven't been a penny for in the betting. So if you back, and that was like Tiger Roll that day, I think people couldn't believe that he was allowed to be sent off the price he was, but also the fact that he won so easily. But it just goes to show the probity of Gordon's operation. Even that he'd winner, he referenced he'd a double in Sligo. Neither was particularly well backed. One drifted like an absolute barge, and it's great for punters to know when you're backing Gordon's horses that you nearly always will get that good run for your money, and that was the case for Tiger Roll. And I think his price yesterday, to be honest, Ger, I think he was way too short in the betting, probably because it's the way to public money. People will back him.
Yeah, and just looking here at the odds for the Grand National next year, Tiger Roll anything between 12 and 16, and presenting Percy as short as 33-1 for the Grand National next year, which even this far out, but there's been a bit of endorsement there from the trainer.
I'd be more with him than Tiger Roll at those prices, being honest, but that's just kind of, I think for Tiger to come back again, it's just going to be very, very tough. He's obviously getting older. And also, I think Francois Dumaine said, you get 5 years out of a horse if you're lucky. Tiger Roll, started off when he was 3 or 4. To be still going at this level is a complete outlier. Some horses do it, but presenting Percy, on the other hand, he's not actually raced an awful lot, and he's now with Gordon Elliott. I think I'm going back. I backed him for the Gold Cup, and I wouldn't put anyone off backing him for the Grand National. But I mean, anyone on from Down Royal. I mean, I go racing at that meeting most years, and obviously this year, there won't be race scores there. But what an unbelievable cast he's talking about running there, and this is from his yard alone between Envoy, Elaine and Samcro, just the two of them and others. It's going to be an incredible weekend's racing next weekend up the north. Yeah,
okay. We'll come back to all of that, obviously, and we'll talk about that on next week's show. No luck for last weekend's tote bet, though, as Grim Star, we should have known from the name, finished 7th at Ballinrobe. No prizes for 7th, leaving the Tote Irish Ninja Jockeys Fund on €2,310 for another week. This week we have another €100 tote bet. Visit tote.ie, where customers can enjoy the tote guarantee, tote price versus SP, on all Irish and UK racing. We need a winner, Johnny.
Need a winner, yeah. Impatient partner, Ger. I'm sure you can relate to that. Your partner at least can. Can she? No, not getting anything out of that.
Whoa!
No,
shots fired. Officer down.
Just a massive tumbleweed effect there. Grim Star was grim last week. And
I was sure, Johnny, during lockdown that you were going to take the moment to seize the day and propose, but I haven't heard anything on your Instagram account about that just yet.
Yeah, you've seen everything else, to be fair, but impatient partner running. I'm just trying to get the time of the race up here tomorrow. 3:57 at Galway. So you have a few minutes before it'll be on the break on Off the Ball on the Saturday football show. So you'll have a chance to back Impatient Partner and just be back in time for the second half of the show. This is a horse owned by JP McManus, Noel Meads. His horses have been running to unbelievable form this season. He produced a horse called Castmate in Limerick there recently that had been off for about 3 years and won easily. An Impatient Partner is a horse who's taken my eye quite a few times now. I think tomorrow should be the day. JP has three horses in the race. Mark Walsh is riding Impatient Partner. Everything's positive. He's fine, fresh. Mark Walsh riding, stable in great form, well handicapped. So the 3:57 tomorrow, Impatient Partner would be my bet of the weekend.
And what kind of price are we looking at?
I did the Racing Post. I would say maybe 4 or 5 to 1, hopefully. So hopefully he's something like that.
Okay, and that is an each way bet, Johnny, or are we putting all of the money for charity for the poor injured jockeys? Are we putting it all on the nose?
It's a bit like the Sims episode where there'll be no hospital. I'll tell the children, the 6 cinder blocks are missing. Making me feel bad here, Ger. I'm trying to do my bit, but it's on the nose for charity this week. It's on the nose, yeah.
All right, good stuff. Friday Night Racing and Off the Ball brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. Johnny, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Thanks, Ger. Have a good weekend.
We'll see you next week. Friday Night Racing is in the books. We broadcast live every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock on the OTB Sports app, and then from 8 o'clock on Off the Ball on News Talk. We replay it all for your delectation. Enjoy. See you next week.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.